Hello and welcome to this video on Yogavataranam textbook. We will be looking in this one at chapter 2 on pages 33 to 35. The first section is how to approach a verse. And then on the next page we will go straight into a genuine line of Sanskrit from the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll just go through how to approach a verse with you, and I will share screen with my iPad. So starting now on page 33, the section on how to approach a verse. I'll go through it with you, though I don't necessarily endorse everything that's said in the first paragraph. We all have our own learning styles, and you'll find the learning style that suits you best. This is reading a verse is like solving a puzzle. Well, yes, that certainly resonates with my early days of learning Sanskrit, and indeed even sometimes the later years of studying Sanskrit. It is important to keep a simultaneous awareness of the specific parts of the verse as well as of the whole. Sometimes the verse will make logical sense, and sometimes you will need to use your imagination to fill in the gaps. Begin by copying the verse by hand, right, if you want to. As you go through the verse, write down a provisional translation, or translations for each word, separating the words that are joined by sandhi. And remember here, importantly, sandhi in writing and in speech is simply an orthographic or phonetic convention. They remain separate words, even though they're joined in writing or in pronunciation. You may find it helpful to identify the different parts of speech, particularly the subject or agent of the action, and the verb or action word. By the way, in grammatical terms, the agent is just another word for the subject, from the Latin agens, the one who is acting, the person who is doing. Now, paragraph 2, the meter of a verse. Meter, by the way, it's from our Greek word metron, meaning a measure, the Sanskrit matra, matra, from Greek metron, meaning a measure. So the meter, that's the way a verse is measured, the number of syllables and whether they're short or long, or as in Sanskrit say, whether they're light or heavy. So back to the text. The meter of a verse is categorized according to the number of syllables per pada, or quarter. The meaning of this is that verses typically are 2 lines, each of 16 syllables, with a break or caesura, as it's said in Latin, caesura, a breaking or a cut in the middle. So you have a 2-verse shloka, or 2-line verse, typically with each line having a natural break in the middle. So half verse, and then a half verse, making the entire stanza. Within this categorization, different meters are distinguished according to the pattern of, you can see 2 words in Devanagari here on your page 33. These are laghu and guru. The laghu is light, laghu. It is actually cognate with our English word light. Laghu, light. And guru, and you recognize that word. And in fact, the original meaning is heavy, but then heavy and by extension kind of important, ponderous. So guru is meaning heavy. The original meaning is heavy. It's cognate with the Latin word gravis, meaning heavy. And in modern English, we can talk about a person having gravitas, a person of who commands respect by his dignified behavior. There's a gravitas, literally a heaviness, but it comes from this conflation which we see in Sanskrit and also in Latin, between heaviness and dignity and respect and that kind of thing. And of course, by further extension, in Sanskrit, the heavy becomes the guru, the teacher, because of the gravitas that he has. So, light and heavy syllables. A syllable is considered laghu, light, if it contains a short vowel, and then the five short vowels are written here: a, I, u, r, l, followed by a single consonant. A syllable is considered guru, heavy, if it contains a long vowel: a, I, u, r, e, I, o, au, or a short vowel followed by a conjunct consonant, an anuswara or a visarga. That means that a word ending just in a short ah, that would be a light syllable, whereas if it's at the end or ah at the end, that counts as a guru, as a heavy syllable. So for each meter, there is a unique pattern of light and heavy syllables that makes it recognizable. The most common meter for verse is called the Anushtubh, or the Shloka meter. In this meter, each verse consists of 4 padas or quarters of 8 syllables each. When you're translating a verse, you can usually think of each pada as a separate phrase and decipher each one separately, though in some cases you may need to rearrange words or even padas in order for the verse to make sense in English. Once you've gone through the whole verse, go back to the beginning and try to put the padas together and make sense of the verse in its entirety. Now this meter, this Anushtubh meter, is by far the most common meter in the whole of Sanskrit literature. And for example, the Buddhist Sanskrit works, take for example the Bodhicharyavatara, is written exclusively in the Anushtubh meter. That is, each numbered verse is 2 lines of 8 syllables plus 8 syllables, next line 8 syllables plus 8 syllables, forming one verse. By far the most common, and you'll see a lot of it. And the Bhagavad Gita, quite a few verses in the book we're studying are taken from the Bhagavad Gita, and that is the meter that is used there as well. Not in every verse, but in most of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So, we now go on to page 34. I'll just read where it says, please note, all vocabulary for the verses will be provided below the verse, unless we've previously encountered the word. So that's inviting you to remember the words that you've had. Don't worry if you can't, because there's a glossary at the back of the book where you can look it up. If a word is being used with a different meaning than we have seen before, the new meaning will be given as well. If you don't remember a word's meaning, you'll find it in the glossary at the end of the book. The underlined words, that's the words that are underlined. If you just look down to the first verse in Sanskrit on this page, you'll see some words are underlined. The underlined words are examples of the specific grammatical constructs learned in the preceding section and should be given particular attention. In the examples, these words will be shown in bold in the English translations. And what the author means by that, if you look to the top of page 35, where there's an English word-by-word translation, a Sanskrit word followed by English word, you'll see that some of them are in bold. So now we will look at this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 30. I will read it twice slowly in Sanskrit, and then we will translate. Now what I'll do first, let me go through the vocabulary first. That's the vocabulary halfway down page 34. So yah is who, that's masculine singular. Mam is me, that's the accusative form. Sarvatra, everywhere. Sarvam, everything. Mayi, in me. Tasya, of or to him. Pranash, to be destroyed. And me, of or to me. Actually, what I'll do, I'll just go through these, writing them in Roman script as we go along, so that the first word is yah, that's the one that means who. The second word, mam, he. Sarvatra, everywhere. Sarvatra. Sarvam, everything. Mayi, that's the locative. Mayi is in me. So mam, me here is the accusative, and mai is the locative. Tasya, sorry. Start again. Tasya, that's the of him. Pranash, to be lost or destroyed. Note that the root nash on its own means to perish, to be destroyed. It's the one that's cognate with the Latin root noc, meaning to harm, as in noxious, harmful. Innocent, somebody who has not caused harm, has not done wrong, is innocent. Something's innocuous, it's harmless. That's from that same root nash. Now you'll see that the n, this is another rule of sandhi that you'll learn, is pranash, sorry, with a subdotted n, and that's because by the rules of sandhi, if an n follows a r in the same word, mind you, it doesn't operate, it doesn't jump over from one word to the next, then the n, the gentle n, becomes the retroflex n. So nash, but pranash. So pranashyati means to perish, to be lost, to be destroyed. And me means of or to me. Me is purely an enclitic form. In other words, it's an abbreviated form that is tacked onto the end of a word. For example, mam, on its own, the accusative, can stand on its own, or even at the beginning of a sentence or a word group. Mam here. So can mayi, in me. But me is misrated, is as an enclitic tacked onto the end of a word, meaning of me or just me. Now I will read this verse in Sanskrit. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra, sarvancha magi pashyati, tasyaham na pranashyami, sachame na pranashyati. Read it again. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra, sarvancha magi pashyati, tasyahan na pranashyami, sachame na pranashyati. Now, let's analyze this bit by bit. So the yah is who or whoever, becomes this, by the usual rule of Sandhi, this final ah becomes an o before a voiced consonant. So it's not Yahme, but your mom. Yah mom becomes your mom. Whoever me, and pashyati. So your, who me sees, your mom pashyati. Who me sees, that's whoever sees me. Sarvatra. Yomam pashyati sarvatra. Whoever sees me everywhere. That means in all things. Whoever sees me in all things. Sarvancha mayi pashyati. This is the neuter accusative sarvam, meaning everything. And everything, sarvancha and everything, mayi, in me, pashyati. So that is, who sees me, first line, who sees me everywhere, sarvancha, and everything in me sees. That's, he sees me everywhere, and he sees everything in me, sees everything as being in me, not separate from me. Tasyaham na pranashyami. Tasyaham na pranashyami. Tasyaham is by Sandhi the merging of tasya plus aham. So, tasya aham na pranashyami, tasyaham na pranashyami. So pranashyami, here it's a present tense, but used as a future tense, means I don't or I never will. Na pranasya, I will not perish, I will not be lost. Tasya, to him. Tasya is in fact a genitive. And whereas in English we'll say I will not be lost for him, or I will not be lost to him, Sanskrit uses the idiomatic form I will not be lost of him. So tasyaham na pranashyami, I will not be lost for him. Satcha me na pranashyati, it's the same the other way around now. Satcha and he, satcha me and he to me, na pranashyati, will not be lost. Let me just write that verse out. Oops. Sorry, the machine turned itself off. So I'll write that verse out, the second part of it. So Yumam pashyati sarvatra sarvancha magi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami. And the second part, satcha, he and to me, and he to me, satcha me, na pranashyati, will not be lost. So the printed book now gives you a word-by-word breakdown at the bottom of page 34, and a word-by-word breakdown with translation again at the top of page 35. The second Sandhi rule in the middle yellow box on page 34 is the one that I've just explained to you. That the followed by a voiced consonant becomes o. That's why it's yo mam, not yah mam, which would be wrong. And the Sandhi rule, again, we've seen two vowels, short or long, combining to form the long version of that vowel. So short a plus long a becomes a, and equally short or long a plus, in the next word, short or long a beginning, equally merge into a long vowel. When we're doing transliteration into Roman script, there's a device that's often used. I've written it here. You can see now on my screen here. This tasyaham is, of course, how it reflects exactly the Devanagari script. But scholars will very often use a circumflex here, like that, tasyaham, which incidentally does not reflect anything in Devanagari script. Devanagari just has the long a, which on its own is written like that, and after a consonant is just written as a long stroke. It's the same in Devanagari, just the long a. But this circumflex is sometimes used as a help to students to show that this a is the coalescing of two vowels by Sandhi. Right, that's all on this clip, and in the next one we will proceed to study the section on the verb to be on page 35.